That's my lion. And then Magnet Noses. Can you feel the love in the afternoon? 'Cause it's daylight out. Welcome back to Every Disney Movie Ever. My name is Jess and I'm watching Every Disney Movie Ever. Today I'm going to be talking about The Lion King. The Lion King's a 2019 theatrical release. It's a photorealistic computer-generated animated reimagining of the 1994 release. So it's just like realistic-looking lions, animated visual effect-wise, and it's the same story. Simba coming to terms with the death of his father and coming to terms with being king and blah, 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 blah. It's directed by Jon Favreau, cinematography by Caleb Deschanel, editing by Adam Gerstel and Mark Livolsi, music by Hans Zimmer, and it's written by Jeff Nathanson. The film stars J.D. McCrary as young Simba, Donald Glover as grown-up Simba, Shahadi, Wright, Joseph as young Nala, Beyonce as grown-up Nala, Chiwetel Ejiofor as Scar, John Oliver as Zazu, John Kani as Rafiki, James Earl Jones as Mufasa, Seth Rogen as Pumbaa, Billy Eichner as Timon, and Alfre Woodard as Shahadi. In 2016, Jon Favreau came out and said he would direct a Lion King remake. Disney released that it would be a photorealistic, computer-generated animation. They never used the words live action. That got put onto it, I suppose. The Moving Picture Company did all of the visual effects for the film. It had a $250 to $260 million budget and made $1.657 billion in the box office, so it's a lot of money. It's got a 52% on Rotten Tomatoes consensus. While it can take pride in its visual achievements, The Lion King is a by-the-numbers retelling that lacks the energy and heart that made the original so beloved, though for some fans that may just be enough. Some people claimed, based off the trailer, that it was going to be a shot-for-shot remake. Jon Favreau came out and was like, obviously there are shots from the first one that are so iconic, I needed to keep them in and pay homage. He's like, but otherwise, the movie is longer. There's more going on. It is not a shot-for-shot remake. There was a tie-in novelization by Elizabeth Rudnick. It was nominated for Best Visual Effects, and there was a prequel planned in that did come out in 2024. I am typically a Jon Favreau stan. I've liked most of the things he's touched or done. I love when he's the actor in a thing. He was a guest star in Friends as one of Monica's boyfriends. He was in, what's that movie where he's like, he's in, She's Out of, is that? No, that's not right. What am I thinking of? He's in a movie where like he's a big jockey, like, baby. I can't think of what that is. And it's funny. He's like a funny side character. Whatever. He's been in a bunch of things as an actor as well that I really love him in, and so I'm typically a Jon Favreau stan. But in this one, I feel like, obviously, you cannot help but compare this one to the original, because it is heavily the same movie. Obviously, it's got stuff that's flushed out or whatever. But I feel like watching this made me realize Jon Favreau might not understand the importance of a whisper. And that might sound silly, but there were multiple moments in this movie, specifically for like Scar, but there were a couple others that were not Scar related, where the original Lion King, the delivery is brought to a whisper instead of like a hard statement of fact, and the whisper is so impactful and so perfect that to take that away, it takes away some of the power. And I 100% think it was a director choice. I don't, I'm sure the actors gave a variety of performances in the booth. I doubt it was the same every time they did a take, right? Actors, mesh and mold when they get notes from a director. So I truly, obviously, when it comes down to it, it was the director's choice, which takes were getting picked. And I really think Favreau was so excited to just be doing this movie and the spectacle of the visuals, especially after like the Jungle Book and everything, which was good. I think it got lost in the like the weight of the performance And I think people don't take advantage of something spoken softly can be just as powerful, sometimes even more menacing. And this is like a weird thing to be picky about, but like it's Jon Favreau, so I get to be picky, right? Like he's great, so I can be picky. And I just think, obviously I'm comparing, right? And it's not the same movie, blah, 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 but like they're the ones that did this, so of course you're gonna compare to the first. And I think taking lines that were whispered or said softly and intensely and making them into just like a big, strong line takes away some of its power, actually. And so I think Jon Favreau might not know the power of a whisper, which I think is interesting. The only real world shot in this film is the opening sunrise. That was real, and then everything else is VFX. And I will say the backgrounds, we've got that down. We've had backgrounds down for a while. The backgrounds look very real, absolutely stunning, gorgeous. I think the animals could still use work. There are moments the animals look very real, but then there's moments the animals look almost too real, to the point of being a little digitally. I still think even with what they did, I think the adults looked more real than the cubs in every scenario. Grown-up Mufasa looked way better than young Simba. Grown-up Simba looked way better than young Simba. Now, the cubs just looked more fake than the adults. However, there is one scene, and it's the final sequence. And in the final sequence, when Scar and Simba, actually fight and do the iconic, in front of the flames on the cliff fight where it's all orange and everything, that is the fakest these lions look. It was, kind of painful. I'm guessing they were having a hard time getting, the light and shadows to bounce off the lions in the right way while the lions are doing such big movements. I don't know. It just looked... It went from being, passable, as realistic, even though I know it's an animated moment, to being oh, that looks really bad, actually, in that moment. The rest of the moments, it all looks, fairly realistic. There's something about it that still gives fakey, digital. Obviously, they're talking, so that doesn't help, because none of the lions' mouths move like that, right? But I don't know. It's a little off-putting sometimes, it was... I feel like this movie didn't need to be made, right? But... whatever, I guess. Just Can't Wait to Be King is fine. I think the animation is beautiful. They're running through all these bugs, flowers, all that good stuff. My biggest complaint about this movie is what they do to Be Prepared. Be Prepared is... I know everybody loves Can You Feel the Love Tonight and Circle of Life, but Be Prepared, is probably the best narrative song in the original. The whole sequence with Scar and the hyenas, it's absolutely delicious. And they absolutely maimed that song and that sequence. He doesn't even, sing that much. He gives, a speech that turns into, a metered speech. So it's, almost supposed to be the verse, which it's not the words from the song yet. And then he does, a verse from the song and is saying, be prepared, be prepared, be prepared. And then he does one final, be prepared or whatever. And it is nowhere near the spectacle that the original Be Prepared is. And I feel like it's to its detriment. Scar in the first one is charismatic, right? He's got this laissez-faire swagger where... he definitely cares about how he feels he's been treated by Mufasa, but has this oh la 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 la, and can be very playful where and you buy it. He's evil, but he's playing with Simba or whatever, and you buy it, right? Okay. The way Chiwetel either was directed or interpreted or whatever, he is very serious all of the time, which fine, I guess. And his whole Be Prepared, it just doesn't feel right. It doesn't evoke a oh crap. He means business. He wants to kill the king. He's just this is what we're gonna do. Be prepared. And you're okay. And also, they kind of show the vast numbers of the hyenas, but in the Be Prepared in 94, you see hundreds of hyenas, and you understand why that could be threatening or menacing. So This is my biggest, like, crime when it comes to the music, is what they did to Be Prepared. It's one of the best songs from the first one, especially in the narrative. Obviously, Circle of Life is great. Obviously, Can You Feel Love Tonight is great. They're the big Elton John ones, whatever. Be Prepared is one of the best narrative songs, right? You've got Hakuna Matata, which is obviously wonderful. You've got Can You Feel Love Tonight. You've got Just Can't Wait to Be King. All great. Be Prepared is like the villain's want song. You've got Simba, I Just Can't Wait to Be King, which is his song, right? That's his want song. Be Prepared is Scar's want song, and it's good. Anyway, moving on. Lion Sleeps Tonight sequence goes on way too long. I thought it was funny. I thought it was a great idea. It goes on way past the life of that joke. Like, he sings it for too long. The Be Our Guest moment, I remember that was the moment in the theater that made me genuinely laugh out loud, because I was expecting, like, the hula thing again, right? The luau or whatever. No, they did the Be Our Guest, like, that was Disney poking fun at itself. I wish, like, they would understand that that is really funny, and people would get a kick out of that, and they could do it more. My other big complaint, which I didn't even, like, register at the time, because I was so focused on the music of it, but I saw in a review, someone pointed out that Can You Feel the Love Tonight is, like, sang and happens during the daytime in the movie. Can you feel the love tonight? And it's daytime, daylight, everywhere, all over, when it's happening, which is hysterical, and what the heck. Like, that's just really bad. It's in the title of the song. And some of it sounded very, like, maybe a little oversung. Instead of, like, singing the song as characters and acting it, they were singing the song to sing the song and be, like, performing, right? There's a difference. The score, it's Hans Zimmer, who helped with the score of the first one, so it is very reminiscent and sounds like the original. This is very faithful. I get where people were coming from with thinking it was going to be a shot-for-shot remake. It obviously is not, because there's other stuff going on. The Long Live the King moment was garbage. I've already talked about the whisper thing. The delivery on that, I'm blaming Jon Favreau for, but, like, it just wasn't as good. Scenes that should have been long felt cut off or too short, didn't have time to breathe. Scenes that were, like, could have been short were left too long and were flushed out. It's fine because it's The Lion King, right? Like, the movie is effective and good because it's The Lion King, right? But it isn't as effective 100%. Zazu is, like, that bird in this movie. He is so brave, so excellent. I love what they did with Zazu in this one. They also, like, say way more in this one than is necessary, right? Like, in the scene where Simba is with Rafiki and goes to this pool of water and sees himself, sees his father in his reflection, and then, like, looks up at the sky and Mufasa appears in the clouds or whatever, and it's the whole remember who you are, you know, that scene. In this one, Mufasa says way more than he says in the animation. In this one, he says, you know, I've always been with you and will be forever. He doesn't say that in the animation. I could be wrong. Yell at me if I'm wrong, but I don't remember that being in the animation. And it's, like, stuff that's, like, kind of implied and visually shown by the fact that, like, he saw his father's reflection in him, in his reflection. So, like, I feel like they're saying things that didn't need to be said, which is kind of a turn-off. It's a little too on the nose, too on the point, which felt a bit yucky, you know? I don't know. I didn't like that either. I will say that I think Seth Rogen and Billy Eichner kind of sort of steal this movie as Timon and Pumbaa. I think Pumbaa and Timon gave me, like, a couple laugh-out-loud moments. One of my favorites being, I may run from hyenas, but I'll always stand up to a bully. And just Seth's performance of that took me out. It was so funny. Obviously, there's one parent death. And then, overall, it's not great. It's fine because it's The Lion King. But the first Lion King is, like, one of the greatest movies of all time, right? I think a lot of people wouldn't argue that that's one of the greats. It's up there with all the classics people talk about. And I don't think this was ever going to be that unless they just made they just re-released that movie in theaters again. You know what I mean? Like, why touch it? And I think it's interesting that they've tried, but, you know, it made $1.657 billion in the box office, so that's why they tried. Eichner was a great choice. I think he was a perfect fit for Timon. I think he's got that same, like, vibe and charisma and, like, comedy quality that Nathan Lane has, so I think that was really great. Seth Rogen as Pumbaa, I remember hearing that and being like, oh, I don't know how I feel about that. I think he does a great job. I think he's really funny, and I think he plays really well off of Billy Eichner. Beyonce's a very talented singer. She's got great music. Not my favorite performance of hers. It felt very stiff, very unnatural. Donald Glover, great job with what he was given, especially. I feel like some performances were not as good as they could have been, and I think that's really interesting because Jon Favreau has made many a good movie. But I feel like I've seen a lot of these other people in other movies and know they're very good. Like, Donald Glover's an excellent actor. So I am keen to blame Jon Favreau for a lot of what I'm getting from these performances, which is a bummer because I love Jon Favreau. Because I just don't feel like they feel like stiff and unnatural. That's my biggest thing. Favorite part? Timon and Pumbaa, probably. They stand out. They make the movie really bearable. Least favorite part? Be Prepared, or the section of visuals that is really bad. But probably Be Prepared, because that's really a crime to one of the best songs. Recommend? I wouldn't personally. I was sad I had to watch this again after seeing it in theaters in 2019. So I'm glad to have this behind me because I will not be watching it again probably ever. And then, you know, as far as recommending, I wouldn't. If you like the OG Lion King, stick with that, right? Just stay there. I think that might be everything. Well, except, so I touched on the whisper acting. That's like, you know, probably a lot of kudos to Jeremy Irons back then. Jeremy Irons puts on a heck of a performance for Scar, you know. And I just wanted to give him his flowers a little bit. That's everything I have for The Lion King. My final rating is going to be 6. I don't know, photorealistic lions out of 10. Our total movie count is... Our parent death toll is... Cry count is still the same. If you want to keep up with what movie I'm watching when, follow me on all socials and check out my website. Join Patreon. Got a tier starting at just $1. You get every video a week early. 2 years above that, you get daily trivia, monthly postcards, bonus content, etc. Buy merch. Merch is great. Merch is grand. Until next time, commonly described, I'm not in charge of your life. You are, studio, and don't be Scar about it. It's already 1:40.